In a distant, quiet corner of the galaxy lies the Valorian homeworld, a lush and vibrant planet known for its advanced technology and peaceful civilization. The Valorians have lived in relative harmony for centuries, cultivating their culture and scientific advancements. But that peace shatters suddenly when an unknown and devastating force strikes their planet without warning. Cities burn, communications go dark, and the Valorian leadership scrambles to understand the origin and intent of the attack. Desperation grips the Valorian High Council as they realize their defenses are overwhelmed and their allies too distant to arrive in time. In their final moments before complete annihilation, they send out a distress signal, a frantic SOS beacon broadcast across multiple frequencies, begging for any nearby civilizations to come to their aid. The message is clear. We are under attack. We face extinction. Help us. This SOS travels far and wide through the vastness of space, reaching the ears of numerous factions scattered across the galaxy. Among those who intercept the signal are various galactic powers, some sympathetic, others cautious or indifferent. But the SOS also catches the attention of the Deathworlders, a notoriously ruthless and warlike species known for their brutal conquests and merciless tactics. To the Deathworlders, the Valorian SOS is not a plea for help, but a challenge, or worse, an opportunity. Within the Deathworlder command, the SOS is interpreted as a sign that the Valorians possess something valuable, or that they have become vulnerable prey. Without hesitation, the Deathworlders begin mobilizing a massive war fleet. Their goal: to wipe out the Valorian civilization entirely before any reinforcements arrive, ensuring no rival faction can gain influence or resources from this strategically positioned world. Meanwhile, on the Valorian planet itself, the remaining survivors, scientists, soldiers, and civilians, prepare for what they know will be a final, desperate defense. Their situation is dire. Many have lost family and friends. Their cities lie in ruins. And resources are scarce, but their spirit remains unbroken. They hastily convert research stations into makeshift bunkers and arm themselves with whatever technology they can salvage. The Valorian military commander, a seasoned and determined leader named Kalen Vor, organizes what remains of the planetary defenses. He knows that their chances are slim against the incoming Deathworlder fleet, but he also understands that surrender would mean the complete eradication of his people and culture. His resolve is to fight to the last breath. Across the stars, other races and factions watch the unfolding crisis with growing concern. Some debate the risks and rewards of intervening, while others dismiss the Valorians as too far gone or not worth the trouble. Among these observers is a lone human mercenary captain, Kieran Tallis. With a reputation for taking on dangerous missions others avoid, Kieran picks up the SOS signal and feels a call to action. Intrigued by the mystery surrounding the attack, and driven by a personal code of honor, Kieran decides to investigate, even though it means entering a volatile war zone. As the Deathworlders' fleet moves inexorably toward the Valorian system, the galaxy braces for a violent confrontation. The initial distress signal, a desperate plea for help, has instead ignited a ruthless campaign of destruction. What began as an SOS may well become a catalyst for a brutal war that could consume entire star systems. As the Valorian SOS signal continues to ripple across the galaxy, many powerful factions and governments take notice, but their responses are mixed. Some dismiss the distress call as a possible trap or a local conflict with no broader implications. Others weigh the risks of intervening in what might be a delicate political situation. The prevailing attitude among most galactic powers is caution, a reluctance to get involved in what they consider a distant skirmish, especially with the Deathworlders involved. At a Grand Council meeting held in the neutral hub of Centra Prime, representatives from various species debate the situation. The Valorians' pleas are met with skepticism. Some council members suspect the Valorian SOS is exaggerated, or that the Valorians themselves may have provoked the unknown attackers. Political agendas and old rivalries cloud clear judgment, and no decisive action is agreed upon. The galaxy's major powers decide to observe but refrain from direct intervention, hoping the conflict will resolve itself without escalating. In the midst of this indecision, A lone figure receives the distress signal with a different sense of urgency. Kieran Tallis, a seasoned human mercenary captain known for taking on dangerous and morally complex missions. Operating on the fringes of known space, Kieran has earned a reputation for both skill and an unyielding personal code of honor. He's no stranger to the galaxy's darker corners, and the Valorian SOS strikes a chord deep within him. Kieran begins, investigating the origins and circumstances of the distress call. Through his contacts and small network of informants, he uncovers hints of a brutal, merciless force heading toward the Valorian system, the Deathworlders. This warlike species is infamous for their savage raids, overwhelming firepower, and refusal to show mercy. Their presence promises total annihilation for the Valorians, and possibly a broader threat to the galaxy if left unchecked. Kieran reaches out to nearby colonies and smaller factions, warning them of the impending Deathworlder assault. His urgent messages are met with a mix of disbelief, political hesitancy, and outright dismissal. Many refuse to take sides, unwilling to risk antagonizing the Deathworlders or being dragged into a wider conflict. Yet a few isolated allies begin to prepare quietly, responding to Kieran's warnings and recognizing the potential danger. Meanwhile, the Deathworlders' fleet continues its relentless advance. Their command structure is ruthless and efficient, leaving no room for mercy or negotiation. Their leaders view the Valorian SOS as a signal of weakness, and they plan to exploit it fully. They accelerate their fleet's approach, determined to strike first and crush the Valorians before any external help can arrive. Back on the Valorian homeworld, the situation grows increasingly desperate. Supplies dwindle and morale fluctuates between hope and despair. Commander Kalen Vore struggles to maintain order and readiness among his people while grappling with the reality that reinforcements may never come. The Valorians prepare for a brutal siege, their survival hinging on their own ingenuity and resilience. Kieran, recognizing the gravity of the situation, makes a bold decision. He sets course for the Valorian system himself, despite the dangers posed by the Deathworlder fleet. His mission is twofold: to provide whatever aid he can to the Valorian survivors, and to gather intelligence that might help rally a stronger resistance. Kieran's arrival could tip the balance if he can reach the Valorians before it's too late. As the Deathworlders close in and the galaxy debates action or inaction, the stage is set for a catastrophic confrontation. The Valorian SOS, once a beacon of hope, has become a lightning rod, igniting tensions and drawing deadly attention. The question remains, will anyone heed the warning in time, or will the Deathworlders' ruthless assault overwhelm all who stand in their path? The calm before the storm shatters as the Deathworlders' massive fleet breaches the Valorian system's outer defenses. Their arrival is swift and brutal, ships descending like a swarm of predators, engines roaring, weapons primed for annihilation. The Valorian defenders, despite their resolve and advanced technology, are caught off guard by the overwhelming scale and ferocity of the attack. Commander Kalen Vore rallies his forces with fierce determination, organizing orbital defense platforms and deploying fighter squadrons in desperate counterattacks. The Valorian homeworld cities, once beacons of peace and progress, become war zones. Lasers cut through the dark void. Explosions ripple across the planet's surface, and civilian populations scramble for shelter amid the chaos. The Deathworlders show no mercy. Their tactics are ruthless and calculated, designed to break the Valorian spirit and reduce resistance to nothing more than a faint flicker. Entire cities are leveled without warning, their populations decimated in ruthless bombardments. The Deathworlder warlords issue commands emphasizing total destruction. No prisoners, no negotiations. This is a war of extinction. Amid the chaos, the Valorian scientists race against time to protect vital research and cultural artifacts, moving them to hidden bunkers and vaults. Their work could hold the key to defending their civilization, but their survival is uncertain. Families are torn apart, friends fall in battle. The emotional toll weighs heavily on all who remain. Meanwhile, Kieran Tallis finally arrives at the fringes of the Valorian system, his ship skimming through the remnants of debris and battle wreckage. Though he comes with no large fleet or reinforcements, his presence brings a flicker of hope. Using his expertise, Karen orchestrates daring rescue operations, extracting key Valorian leaders and scientists from the most dangerous zones. These survivors are critical not only for their knowledge, but also to serve as symbols of resistance and continuity. Chiron's small team employs guerrilla tactics, striking Deathworlder supply lines and communication hubs, aiming to disrupt the fleet's advance. These hit-and-run attacks, while small in scale, begin to chip away at the enemy's confidence and reveal that the Valorians are not helpless prey. Still, the imbalance in firepower remains stark. News of the Deathworlders' brutality spreads rapidly throughout the galaxy. Observers and neutral factions are horrified by the scale of destruction and the callousness of the Deathworlder assault. The Valorians, once considered a minor player in galactic politics, become a symbol of defiance and suffering. Some factions begin to question their previous indifference, sensing that this conflict could escalate beyond one system. The Valorian civilian population endures unimaginable hardship, makeshift shelters, rationing, and relentless fear of the next strike. The cultural heart of the Valorian people, their history and their identity risk being erased in this brutal campaign. Yet in underground bunkers and hidden outposts, the survivors gather strength, inspired by Commander Vor's leadership and Chiron's arrival. The Deathworlders press their advantage, tightening their grip around the system's inner planets and aiming to crush any pockets of resistance. Their warships unleash devastating barrages on strategic targets, and boarding parties engage in vicious ground combat. It's a fight for survival on every front. But the first blood spilled also marks a turning point. The Valorians and their allies realize that though they are outgunned, they are not defeated. The savage nature of the Deathworlders galvanizes them to fight harder, knowing that surrender would mean total annihilation. As the dust settles on the initial battles, both sides prepare for the next phase of this brutal war. The Deathworlders' No Mercy campaign has sparked fierce resistance, and the galaxy begins to see that this is no mere skirmish. It is a war that could decide the fate of entire civilizations. The Valorian homeworld lies scarred and battered after the initial Deathworlder onslaught, but the spirit of the survivors remains unbroken. Though their forces were overwhelmed in the first wave, Valorian commander Kalen Vor and the human mercenary Chiron Talus understand that the battle for their survival has only just begun. To withstand the Deathworlders' relentless campaign, they must rally allies and unify the fractured factions scattered across the galaxy. Chiron takes the lead, using his contacts and reputation to send urgent messages to nearby systems and reluctant galactic powers. He warns them that the Deathworlders are not simply raiders. They are an existential threat to all civilizations. His appeals stress that the ruthless species' hunger for conquest will not stop with the Valorians. Their next targets could be any world. Slowly but surely, Chiron's warnings begin to resonate. Small factions, trade guilds, and independent militias that had previously stayed neutral begin to reconsider their positions. These groups are wary of entangling themselves in a full-scale war, but they recognize that doing nothing could lead to their own destruction. They start supplying weapons, intelligence, and limited reinforcements to the Valorian resistance. At the same time, Valorian scientists, working alongside Chiron's team, uncover a vital clue. The Deathworlders are not simply attacking to annihilate. They are hunting a rare and powerful energy source unique to the Valorian homeworld. This energy, hidden deep beneath the planet's surface, could provide near-limitless power or devastating weaponry if harnessed. The Deathworlders' fleet is motivated not just by conquest, but by a desire to control this resource. This revelation transforms the conflict from a desperate defense to a high-stakes race. The Valorians and their allies must protect the secret of the energy source at all costs. They devise a risky plan to strike the Deathworlders' fleet using guerrilla tactics, stealth attacks, and sabotage, exploiting their knowledge of the Valorian system's terrain and advanced technology to level the playing field. Chiron leads several covert raids on Deathworlder supply lines and communication nodes, managing to cripple parts of the fleet's coordination. These hit-and-run strikes, while small, sow confusion and delay the enemy's advance. The Deathworlders, accustomed to overwhelming firepower and intimidation, are caught off guard by the resilience and ingenuity of their opponents. Meanwhile, Commander Vor rallies the Valorian military and civilians alike, emphasizing unity and hope despite overwhelming odds. He inspires his people with speeches and bold leadership, reminding them that their culture and existence depend on standing strong together. As resistance grows, a secret weapon long believed lost is rediscovered, a powerful ancient device buried deep in the Valorian core. Its activation could change the course of the war but risks catastrophic consequences if misused. The decision to deploy it weighs heavily on Valorian leaders. Back in the broader galaxy, more factions begin to heed Chiron's calls for unity. Quiet alliances form in the shadows as scattered groups prepare to confront the Deathworlders collectively. What was once a fragmented and hesitant response is now coalescing into a burgeoning resistance movement. However, the Deathworlders remain relentless. Their warlords press for complete domination, unwilling to accept defeat or retreat. They adapt their tactics to counter the guerrilla attacks and begin to anticipate Valorian strategies. The stage is set for a massive, decisive clash. The Valorians and their allies stand on the precipice of a turning point. The fierce resistance has bought them time, rallied support, and shaken the Deathworlders' confidence. But the cost is high. Many lives have been lost, and the battle for survival is far from over. As the galaxy watches and waits, the alliance forged in the fires of desperation prepares for a confrontation that could decide the fate of not just the Valorians, but the entire galactic order. The Valorian resistance, bolstered by new allies and driven by desperation, begins to shift the momentum against the Deathworlders. The brutal assault that once seemed unstoppable now faces a determined and growing opposition. Through cunning strategy, technological innovation, and raw resolve, Commander Kalen Vor and Kieran Tallis lead their forces in a series of daring operations that slowly unravel the Deathworlders' iron grip on the Valorian system. One of the pivotal breakthroughs comes with the rediscovery and activation of the ancient Valorian device, buried deep beneath their planet's surface. This artifact, a relic from a forgotten age, channels an immense and mysterious energy that the Valorians had long feared to use. But in the face of annihilation, they take the risk. The device unleashes a powerful electromagnetic pulse that temporarily disables large portions of the Deathworlder fleet systems. Communications, propulsion, and weapons all falter. This crippling blow buys the Valorians precious time. Chiron leads rapid strike teams to exploit the chaos, targeting damaged ships and supply convoys with precision attacks. The guerrilla warfare tactics that had earlier been small and symbolic now escalate into coordinated system-wide campaigns. The Deathworlders, accustomed to overwhelming force, find themselves struggling against an enemy that is smarter, faster, and more unpredictable than expected. At the same time, the alliance of galactic factions that Chiron helped form grows stronger. Support arrives in the form of reinforcements, advanced weaponry, and strategic intelligence. Even some former skeptics come forward, recognizing the grave threat posed by the Deathworlders and the broader implications for galactic stability. The Resistance's growing success inspires hope not only for the Valorians but for all those threatened by the Deathworlders' ruthless expansion. However, victory is not without cost. The Valorian planet remains heavily damaged, and casualties mount on both sides. Chiron, ever the pragmatic leader, understands that the struggle will be long and arduous. The Deathworlders are adapting, reorganizing their forces and bringing in reinforcements of their own. Their warlords issue harsh edicts demanding renewed aggression and zero tolerance for failure. In the shadows, intrigue and conflict ripple through the Valorian leadership. Some fear the power of the ancient device and worry about potential collateral damage or long-term effects on the planet's environment. Debates arise over whether to push for a decisive final battle or continue the costly war of attrition. Commander Vor, burdened by the lives lost under his command, balances these concerns with the need to protect his people's future. Meanwhile, Kieran uncovers disturbing intelligence suggesting that the Deathworlders may have allies lurking within the galaxy, rogue factions willing to aid their conquest in exchange for power or resources. This revelation complicates the Resistance's efforts, forcing them to be vigilant against betrayal and sabotage. The Deathworlders themselves grow more ruthless, launching brutal counterattacks intended to break the spirit of the Valorian defenders and their allies. Despite these efforts, the tide has unmistakably turned. The Deathworlders no longer hold the initiative. Instead, they fight desperately to hold on to their gains. As Part 5 closes, the Valorians and their allies prepare for what could be the war's climax, a massive, decisive confrontation that will determine the fate of their homeworld and the broader galaxy. The battle lines are drawn, the stakes higher than ever, and every decision could mean survival or annihilation. The Valorian system stands on the brink of total destruction as the Deathworlders marshal their remaining forces for a final, overwhelming assault. Both sides recognize that the outcome of this impending battle will decide the fate not only of the Valorians, but potentially the entire galaxy. With every resource stretched to its limit, the Valorian defenders, led by Commander Kalen Vore and Kieran Tallis, prepare for their most desperate and determined stand. The ancient Valorian device, now fully understood and carefully calibrated, becomes the centerpiece of their defensive strategy. The device emits a powerful protective energy field around critical population centers and military installations, mitigating damage from orbital bombardments and shielding key infrastructure from the Deathworlder warships. This technology shifts the balance, offering the defenders a much-needed advantage. Kieran and Commander Vore coordinate a multi-pronged defense. While orbital fleets engage the Deathworlders in fierce space combat, ground forces prepare for brutal close-quarters battles. Valorian guerrilla fighters trained in the harsh environments of their Deathworld planet use their intimate knowledge of the terrain to launch ambushes and disrupt enemy supply lines. The allied factions that Kieran rallied stand alongside the Valorians, their ships and troops fighting shoulder to shoulder against the ruthless invaders. This unprecedented coalition showcases the power of unity and determination. Even factions that had once doubted the threat now commit fully, recognizing that their own survival is intertwined with that of the Valorians. As the Deathworlder flagship descends toward the Valorian capital, it becomes clear that their leaders are desperate to crush the Resistance once and for all. Their strategy involves a concentrated strike to shatter the heart of Valorian defenses, aiming to decapitate command and control and break the will of the survivors. In response, Kieran leads a daring raid aboard the Deathworlder flagship, infiltrating the enemy's command center to disable critical systems. The operation is perilous and fraught with danger, but it succeeds in crippling the flagship's weapons and communications at a critical moment. This strike cripples the Deathworlder fleet's coordination and morale, turning the tide in favor of the Valorian alliance. Simultaneously, Commander Vore leads a fierce counteroffensive on the surface. Despite overwhelming enemy numbers, his forces hold firm, inspired by the knowledge that failure means extinction. The Valorian people, hardened by years of struggle and loss, fight with an unyielding resolve. The battle is brutal and costly. Entire fleets clash in space, cities burn, and fields become battlegrounds. Lives are lost on both sides. But the Deathworlders' brutal tactics and overwhelming force can no longer guarantee victory. As the dust settles, the Deathworlder fleet, decimated and leaderless, begins a chaotic retreat. The Valorian system is battered but intact, its people victorious against near-impossible odds. Commander Vore and Kieran stand among survivors, united by sacrifice and shared resolve. The final stand sends a powerful message throughout the galaxy. The Deathworlders, despite their ruthless reputation, can be defeated. More importantly, it proves that even the most savage threat can be overcome through unity, courage, and determination. In the aftermath, the Valorians begin rebuilding their shattered world, their culture forever marked by the scars of war, but strengthened by resilience. The Galactic factions that came to their aid forged stronger alliances, wary of future threats but hopeful for lasting peace. Kieran Tallis, having played a pivotal role in the victory, sets his sights on broader horizons, knowing the galaxy still harbors dangers but inspired by the power of solidarity forged in the fires of conflict. Alien SOS sparks Deathworlders' ruthless fleet attack, ends with a reminder that even in the darkest moments, hope and resistance can turn the tide, and that the fate of entire worlds often rests in the hands of those willing to fight for it.